Hi, Erin.
What's up?
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Racanelli. This is Out of Frame. I haven't done this show since February, so time to come back after a long 7-month hiatus. As you may notice, if you've watched the first one, I have a new set. It's a lovely picture up here. Little production value. That's you.
Yeah, my
case you didn't
eyebrows look different in that picture than they do in real life.
They do.
Yeah, I stopped plucking my eyebrows, and so it's weird looking at that.
Yeah.
'Cause that's not how they look anymore, you know? I just
What-
stopped caring.
Really? Was that what it was? You didn't-
Well, someone actually, I don't know exactly what happened, but I just kind of embraced the natural me.
Yeah. Totally
I
understandable.
still shave my legs though.
That's
Does
good.
that make me a hypocrite?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't
Trying to
shave my
figure it
legs.
out. Yeah. I mean,
So.
but you also don't pluck your eyebrows. So I'm like,
That's not necessarily true. I do.
Do you?
I do kind of work on this area right here
Oh,
because I don't want
my
a unibrow.
God.
I'm of Italian descent, so
Well, your eyebrows
I
look
get-
really good.
thank you.
I
This
must
is
say.
all. This is natural
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
But
you have
this
great
one right
hair,
Here, I'm faking it right here.
great eyebrows.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So, for those of you who do not know Erin, she is she is a comedian,
Yes.
a writer, an actress,
Yeah.
an amateur boxer. What else do you do?
All these things.
Yeah.
I'm I love dogs. I'm a dog
You're a dog
lover
person.
and
What's your
appreciator.
favorite kind of dog?
My dog
Your
is
dog?
the best. Yeah, she is half Maltese, half Yorkie, so she's half brown, just like me. So we really bond on that level, you
Got
know.
it.
Yeah, we love each other. She's amazing.
What kind of dog is she? You said she's a half Maltese, half
Yorkie.
Yorkie.
Yeah,
so she's a small little thing.
Yeah, she's 10, 11 pounds, and she when she was a baby, she was super multicolored and brown and blonde and golden, and
Wow.
then she grew up and all of her puppy hair grew out.
Wow.
And she kind of became more Maltese looking.
Okay.
So she's kind of blonde, which is just like me.
Oh my God.
We had the exact same transition into adulthood, you know?
Wow.
It's so weird, yeah.
She's like your real daughter.
She's like my real daughter.
What's her name?
Ripken.
Ripken. And where did
Yeah.
that name come from?
Like Cal Ripken, the baseball player.
Wow.
Yep.
So you were a baseball fan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Giants fan. I'm from the Bay Area.
Oh, that's
so,
right.
Baltimore, not even, my city, not my team. But I do think that, Cal Ripken Jr. is the most respectable baseball player that's ever lived,
Okay.
you know? He always showed up. He was dependable.
Got it. So
Values, morals, things like that. I appreciate.
understandable. So let's since you're talking about the Bay Area and you grew up over there, let's delve right into you grew up in San Fran.
I think.
You think you did?
I think I grew
Is
up.
it very-
I might not have grown up at all.
Well, I think
Might
a
be
lot
the
of us
same
haven't
person, I don't know.
really grown up. I'm gonna kill this fan real quick here too. I forgot to do that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Look at that. There we go. Just so we can make sure we can hear everything really well.
Okay.
Don't want to miss out.
Yeah,
I forgot
no.
to kill that a little while ago. That's the problem with scheduling a broadcast to go live and then it just goes.
I didn't say anything that important. It's all good.
Okay.
But yeah, born in the Bay. I went to high school there.
Okay.
I moved to LA and I went to USC.
Got it. Okay.
Thought I was going to be a journalist.
Wow.
Studied broadcast journalism there. And then I kind of started getting jobs in the adult world and realized I don't really care about breaking news. I don't care about being there when it happens, but I do care about talking about it. And I want to have opinions attached to everything that I
Sure.
did. So the news industry didn't really seem like a good fit anymore. So I kind of got into hosting and comedy because I like talking about things, but never without attaching opinion or feeling. Yeah.
Okay. What were you so you were going to go into journalism, but what did you want to do when you were a kid? Like when
A
you were
kid?
when you were really young, cuz we all have that thing that
Yeah.
we want to do, and I think that is the most honest time in our life.
Well,
When we really you don't
wa-
cuz you're not corrupted by society yet.
I wanted to be a cat.
You wanted to be a cat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to be a cat. I wanted to be an astronaut.
An astronaut.
Yep. I wanted to be an artist, but like an actual, like a painting.
I wanted to do
artist.
that too.
Yeah.
I was heavily into the
Yep.
painting and drawing when I was a kid, entered all the school art
Yeah.
fairs and all that stuff.
Yeah, me too. And I would always do plays, like put on shows with my brother and my cousins. Like that was my favorite thing. I would like, it was so funny. I would like I have all these tape recordings of like a fake radio station.
So do I.
Oh my God,
Funny
no
enough,
way.
I do.
Are
Yeah.
you serious?
My sister had them and she gave them to me, and I have them in this cassette tape box somewhere in my apartment. I haven't listened to them since I was a kid, so I have
Oh
no
my
idea.
God,
And there's
you
like
have to.
there's mixes from like the 90s,
You
like when I had a
have
tape deck
to.
in my car, and yeah, I have to. But I where do you even find a tape deck now? But it's coming back, right? So like tapes are coming back.
So I mean, when I was a kid, like I did the same thing, and I found them. I would say like I really re-listened to them probably a couple years ago.
Okay.
And I had all my old childhood gear, like all my old recorders and players and stuff like that. So I would listen to it and be like, "Wow, this is ridiculous." It was really funny. Like. The stuff that I thought was funny then, I still think is funny now. But the thing that's changed was like my personality and my delivery. Like I feel like as a kid, I was way more confident than I am now.
You've been corrupted by society.
I'm like,
You're
what
thinking about all kinds
happened?
of other things now.
I was so sure. Like I was so sure in what I was saying. You could tell by like how fast I was speaking. And I wasn't second guessing anything.
Oh yeah, you
like,
just dive right in.
yeah, what I said was fact. Like it was real. It was true. And now I'm
Being
like,
real
well,
at 8.
like I'll like think about stuff. I'll take a second. Like it's just like very different.
What do you know anything offhand? Like, do you remember anything specific that you talked about that's like, wow?
Well, I remember talking about the fact that I had a retainer, right? Like I have amazing teeth.
You
but
do.
This
You have
was
very nice
not
teeth.
natural. Like
Oh, wow.
this is many years of orthodontia. I will be honest with you.
Orthodontia. I don't think I've
Yes.
ever heard that word used in conversation.
And I remember when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, and I was making these tapes, I had a retainer in. And so I would like acknowledge the fact that the way that
Were you
I
like,
sounded
"Hey,
was
guys."
weird. Yes, I had a lisp, and I
Okay.
talked about it. I was like, yes, I have a lisp because I have a retainer in. Well, whatever. Like I would just put it out there and be like, okay, moving on. And I thought that was so funny that I talked about it because no one was ever going to hear that, Like I acknowledged it for an audience that wasn't there.
But don't
that
you
is so funny.
Don't you think that's kind of funny now, though, that you're doing comedy and that's basically what comedy is?
Yeah,
You're kind of embracing your flaws and being like, hey, this is weird.
No, totally.
And now you're doing that.
And as a kid, I
So-
never, ever thought I would do that. Like, I never thought I'd be a comedian. Like, I've never, considered myself hyper-confessional. Like, I'll be honest. Not
Sure.
until adulthood, right?
Right.
So, as a kid, knowing, no one's ever going to hear these tapes, why am I talking about the fact that I have a lisp right now? I just felt like I needed to tell someone.
But you
I
listened
guess. I
back
don't
to
know.
them, right?
Yeah. No, I did.
So
yeah.
maybe it's just a matter
But I thought
of...
that was so funny. It almost, made me embarrassed, insecure about the fact I was like, oh my God, why am I even talking about this? Like, really? And then I thought, wow, that's weird that 9-10-year-old Erin was talking about having a lisp. I needed to explain it to a non-existent audience.
But you got it out and you listened to it. And I think admitting something like that is the first step to, acceptance and then just being confident about it, right?
I guess
then go
so.
for anything.
I don't know if I was confident about anything at that age, though. I don't think I knew anything, really.
I don't think any of us knew anything.
Yeah,
but
do you know anything about life at age 10 or
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
a really long time ago?
A really long time ago.
Yep.
I think I was just playing on my Commodore 64 at that point. That was a sweet computer.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it was a sweet computer. It was
Really?
the first computer I ever had.
Okay.
So you made tapes as a child, and then what were you doing in high school as far as creativity goes? 'Cause I'm assuming you were always a creative entity, right?
Maybe, kind of. I went to Christian school, and I feel like in high school...
I went to Catholic school for 12 years, so...
Yeah, it's kind of your creative side is not really that much encouraged in schools like that, I feel. At
Sort of
least
true.
That was my experience, right? So I felt like I was a cheerleader. I played tennis. I don't really feel like I was connected to the creative side of me, which is weird because when I was in middle school, I went to a performing arts middle school.
Right.
And I was super connected to all of that.
Right.
You know, like I felt very like in touch with myself as like a dancer and like a singer. Like I did both those things when I was really, really young. That's why I went to that school and acting and stuff like that. And then I went to Christian school and I felt like it was all super repressed. Like all that kind of wasn't, like it was kind of an option, but it just like felt like not everyone was doing it, and it felt like you were kind of like judged for doing it. I don't know. It was just like a different vibe, you know, a very different vibe than going to like a performing arts school. I don't feel like they did a good job of kind of like fostering or celebrating that.
Okay.
That element.
And you think that had to do with like the spiritual aspect of the school?
I really don't know, but I just know what it felt like from going
Okay.
from one place to another, you know? Like I don't know what to blame it on. I don't know like why it was the way that it was, but I just know how it felt. And I just felt like way more free, way more like in touch with being creative when I was at the performing arts school.
Right. And where did the switch come from? Why did you end up going to a Christian?
Because where I'm from, there's not that many great public schools, right? So it was kind of like, well, you're going to go to private school now.
Right.
You're going to get into good college, and this is like your track
Okay.
in life. And so I ended up in private school at that point.
So your parents, were they, did they, you know, sort of foster the creativity at home? They were-
Yeah. My parents have been amazing the whole time. They're incredible people, and they've always been cognizant of that side of me and my brother. My
Right.
brother's the same way.
Okay.
And always helped us develop that, explore it.
But they just wanted to make sure you went to a good college.
Yeah, I
Just in
mean,
case.
going to college wasn't even an option for us. It was like, you're going to college.
Right.
Yeah, you can go wherever you want to go, but you're going to college.
Okay.
It wasn't even a question. It wasn't like if, it was where.
So how did you get to the point then? So you said you went to USC,
Mm-hmm.
which is how you ended up down here.
Yeah.
And you went for journalism? Was that the
Yeah.
first choice? And-
Well, what I transferred actually. I went to
Okay.
LMU.
Okay.
And I wanted to
a beautiful
always
campus.
it's beautiful. I always wanted to do journalism, but
Okay.
at LMU, they don't have a journalism program,
What did you go into LMU doing?
undeclared.
Okay.
And they have like a certificate program, but it's basically work on top of another major. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, this is what I really want to do. Where are the best programs? It was like Syracuse, USC,
Okay.
Northwestern. So I applied to Syracuse and USC. Got into both.
Oh, wow.
Got money to go to Syracuse. Decided, no, I want to go to USC.
Did you want to stay closer to your family? Is
Yeah.
That, okay.
Wanted to stay close to California. Want to be close to where my friends were.
Right.
Yeah.
Did any of your friends go to USC with you?
I mean, I knew some people that had
Okay.
transferred at the same time, but it was
Right.
kind of, or people that had gone there originally. Actually, like my high school boyfriend was there. And
Oh.
then we ended up dating when I transferred. It was really funny. Yeah, like again.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird because you're joining a group of people that already had that
Right.
experience of like, oh, we're new here, and then all of a sudden you're new here, and you kind of don't really know. Like everyone has their shit figured out, and you're like, I don't really. Okay,
Yeah.
what am I doing here?
Right.
Yeah, transferring sucks.
That's basically what it comes down to. Transferring sucks.
It really does. But I honestly think it's probably like one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
So you transferred, you started in journalism, and then what did you get involved in and get involved with as far as journalism goes in college? I'm assuming there was like a USC like student news.
Yeah, I mean, we had to do that as journalism majors, so there was a news channel. So I did. I was the weather girl. Yeah, so I did
Wow.
like Trojan Vision weather girl stuff. I did. There was this show called Platform where it was
Okay.
like a debate show.
Oh,
That was
wow.
like someone takes one side, someone else takes another side, and then we like debate each side.
Sure.
So I did that show. I did a radio show. Like I
Back
don't
to the radio
know.
show again.
I know. I did all this stuff. It was cool. It was fun, but at the same time, it's hilarious. I'm like,
But nothing stuck then.
well, I mean, I would say all of it stuck in a certain way. I had to. I mean, I do podcasts now,
Right.
you know, so I know about sound editing.
Sure. So there's technical aspects of it.
Yeah.
But as far as
everything in news journalism, like video journalism, like I'm not a news reporter, but
right.
I know how to edit stuff.
Right.
I know how to produce content. You know, it's weird. It's like the things that you learn are indirectly related to what you're doing now.
Right. So there's been this constant thread through everything you've done since a child.
Maybe in certain ways. In certain ways, you're always like growing and building
Sure.
and figuring things out as you go.
So then where did you go from there? So you graduate and you're like, okay, I have a degree in journalism. What happens now?
I got hired at TMZ. That was my first job.
Amazing. And what did you do there?
Oh my God. I don't even know.
You do know.
I mean, I was working in the newsroom. I was trying to break stories. They need content. They wanted pictures. They wanted to find out what happened to Lindsay Lohan the night before, whatever,
Kombucha?
you know.
She drinking a bunch of kombucha and getting
Yes,
drunk? Yeah.
so much kombucha. So I don't know. It was just kind of like a lot of, they want to break news. They want to break news. They want to be the first people to tell you what's going on.
They were the first people to break Michael Jackson's death.
Yeah, that was like kind of when I was there. I was there for that. I was there for when Rihanna's mugshot came out. I remember that was a big deal.
Right.
I remember there were things that would come across like the desk there that they didn't know if they could go public with or not, because it was, you know, like you have a photo, you don't know where it's from,
Right.
like you're not. I learned a lot about legality, I would say there. Because they're constantly getting information, but
Sure.
it's like, when can you actually say that this is true or not? You
Right.
know, you can't just like put every rumor out there. So
Right.
I learned a lot about that there. And I learned that I don't really care about breaking news. I don't care about being the first person that tells you Michael Jackson died, but I would like to talk about his legacy.
Sure.
Or what that meant to pop culture, or
Yeah.
like what the implications are and why it happened. But I don't really care about being the first person on the scene that can tell you Michael Jackson died today. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, especially with like celebrity culture, it's really weird how obsessive people become with like details of, and they're just creative people like either one of us. They just attain some sort of status because of the amazing work that they've done, that so many people are, you know, touched by it. And yeah, I mean, TMZ, I usually looked at them as far as, like I said with Michael Jackson, like they broke it and everybody was still confused, and I was like, oh no, it's definitely true because TMZ has it.
Yeah.
You know, they're pretty good about being able to get in there first, but it is a weird line to cross with breaking things like that and having to be there first and be like, you know, so and so overdosed and this is how it happened, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I can understand why that's kind of like an overwhelming thing, especially as a creative person, not wanting to kind of step over that line.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think at the time I just felt like it was just like, again, I don't really care about being the first person to know. I do care about what it means.
Right.
And I've always been that way. But I don't think I was really able to really piece that together until I was actually there, and that was my job. And it was like, you don't have an opinion. You don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is like what you say. These are the facts. And you're a conduit for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you worked at TMZ, and then what happened?
Then I learned I wanted to host.
How did you end up quitting TMZ? What did it come down to? Was there any sort of like?
I got like this G4 thing that was kind of like a G4 E3 whatever.
That was the game. That was the gaming network. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do this.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just I think what really happened was I realized that I wanted to be able to be a personality. I wanted the freedom to say what I wanted to say.
Right.
Attach opinion, personality to what I was doing currently. Mm-hmm. And I kind of started getting those opportunities while I was there.
Right.
And yeah,
I
took them.
Right. So what were you doing? What were you doing on G4 then? What was like
I mean,
did a
whatever.
bunch of various pieces for?
No, just like random things here and there. But like what that meant for me was I was able to take a lot of other hosting opportunities. Like,
right.
G4 was just like one of them. I was doing stuff for the stream.tv, which was one of the first live streaming networks.
Okay.
You know, like a bunch of Clever, which is now one of the biggest entertainment online channels.
Right.
Just like a bunch of places like that. Like I just had opportunities to host for a lot of people, which it was like essentially the same thing, but you're kind of like, you get the news and then you make a video about the news.
Right.
Which is kind of cool because
Right.
it eliminated the pressure of having to break it, and you could kind of like
You can
your
take it
opinion
in,
or
dissect
yeah,
it, be
or
like,
say
what does
like
this mean?
this is what this person's saying, it's what this person's saying, like these are the point of views, like we don't know. I don't know. It gives you a lot more freedom.
Right. That makes sense. There's sort of this through line of you're just evolving now, because now at this point, so you move on to doing a lot of hosting work, and you're kind of becoming this sort of brand and this content creator on your own. So this is starting to be more so about you and not the vehicle that you're in.
Yeah, kind of.
Because you've now, after this entire all of these points, you've kind of you did this and that, and was you were the weather girl on Trojan Vision, then moved on to TMZ, and it was kind of about these sort of vehicles, and then you started, as you were hosting and taking these things in and giving your own opinion, you're now becoming sort of a separate entity that can kind of pick things up, and I'm assuming that's when you started to transition to other things. Like when did the comedy come in? When did the writing come in that?
Yeah. Well, I ended up producing video content for a startup, and it was a place where I was hosting. So one of the places where I was doing red carpet interviews or whatever, junkets, they wanted to bring on someone full-time to do all their video content, and that ended up being me. I got that position, and I kind of had this idea for some content that I wanted to roll out, and there was something that was kind of comedic related but also entertainment related, pop culture-y, that I wanted to work on, but I had never written a joke a day in my life, and I didn't have writers, I didn't have resources. Like, it was literally one dude that was running the website and me, and I was running the video. And not only was I running the video, I was half running the website too, like we were that understaffed. So I got into a joke writing class, and
Okay.
there was a showcase at the Improv, and after that I started kind of getting booked around town. So while simultaneously I was here at the startup kind of creating content, trying to figure out how to make this show work for the internet, I was also starting to do stand-up, which I never thought I'd be doing.
So where did you take this joke writing class?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. And I do remember it was not worth my time. It was just a joke writing
Wow.
class.
Look at that.
Yep. It was hilarious. I didn't learn anything. It was kind of like, well, this is how you write a joke. You attach an opinion, new situation, blah, blah, blah.
And you're like, I already know how to do this.
No, it wasn't that. I honestly didn't learn how to write a joke till like 3 years after that class.
Okay.
But it's sad that I got into that class to try to understand it, and no one there could teach me, and no one was like, nope, this is how you do it. It was kind of one of those weird classes where they kind of like tell you kind of what you're supposed to do, but don't correct your work, where you're like, no, this is what you're missing from this material. Like I remember trying to test out material, and people would be like, well, is that true? Like, is that, and it's like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't, like, what are we correcting here? Like, whether or not that's true, or whether or not it's a well-written joke. Like, does it make sense? Is there a setup? Is there a punch? Like, how long does it take you to get from the setup to the punch? Like, are you concise? Do you make sense? Is it funny?
Is it funny? Which is
None
the
of
most
that shit
important
was
part
discussed.
of a
You
joke.
know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't suggest that to anyone out there.
So it was kind of just way too open as far as being able to teach you.
Well, I just don't think they knew what they were doing.
Okay, that's fair.
I really don't.
So you had to write jokes, took a joke writing class, didn't learn anything from it, but yet you soldiered on.
At the time, I thought that I did. I thought,
Okay.
oh, wow, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And I got up there and I had so much confidence. Just like told my shitty jokes and sold it, and started getting booked around town at random shows. And it's funny because like now I wouldn't, like, that material makes me cringe. Like,
Well,
that
yeah,
was so bad. I had no idea what I was doing, but for some reason I was like, yeah, I know it. It's great. This is what I'm doing.
Confidence sells a lot of things.
Apparently. But I remember shortly after that feeling like not confident at all. I'm realizing, oh, okay, now that I'm in the real world doing other shows, maybe my jokes aren't that great.
It's weird because you start to, especially when you get in that position where you're actually doing what you want to be doing, or you're trying to do, and you start comparing yourself to others who are already doing this, and they might not even be that great, and they probably beat on themselves after the fact. You're like, oh, that joke sucked, but you're looking at them and you're like, oh my god, like I have such a long way to go. These people.
No, totally.
What was the first like stand-up gig that you did? Do you remember the first time being on stage?
Yeah, it was that showcase for that class.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you remember any of your material?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about any of it?
Nope.
You hate it that much?
It's just not indicative of what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I remember that I felt like at the time, when you start becoming creative or whatever, when
Sure.
you start working on a new thing, your taste and your opinion and what you're striving to be is often influenced by who you admire, right? So I would watch, Whitney Cummings or Amy Schumer or Natasha Leggero. I'd watch their content.
You start to emulate them in order to find your footing.
Yeah. Wasn't really my voice.
Right.
Wasn't really what I wanted to talk about. Wasn't really what I identified with, even though they're all great. I feel like what I tried to do was try to be like them.
Right.
Right? And I feel like that takes a while for you to learn what your voice really is or what you really want to talk about.
Yeah.
What resonates with an audience coming from your mouth. It's not going to be the same as like what works for Amy Schumer or Whitney Cummings or Natasha Leggero. Like for me, it's like something different.
You kind of have to emulate before you innovate.
Yes.
Basically.
No, totally.
It's
That's how
I
you
always tell
learn.
people
That's how you learn.
I always tell people in bands like Radiohead could have never written Kid A if they hadn't written OK Computer. And that's an amazing album, but they sounded like a lot of British bands out at the time.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of great songs in that record, and they had to do that in order to move forward and be accepted by people and kind of know that they can write songs. They had to learn themselves through others, right?
Is Kid A your favorite Radiohead album?
I would say probably The Bends is my favorite Radiohead album.
Really?
So yeah.
Okay.
I like a lot, but
Don't
I would say
leave me high.
I would say Oasis is probably my favorite band from that era, though. Have you seen the Liam Gallagher Making a Cup of Tea? You have to watch. I'll send that to you. It was on BBC Three. Had it on there.
Okay.
It was like last week, but it's basically just short video of him making tea, and then being pissed off because when he was talking about in the 90s, he's like, we used to have 4 guys making tea, and this fucker and this fucker, and he's like, and now, people aren't buying any albums. You're downloading songs for nothing. And I have to do this. And you wonder why there's no real rock stars anymore. Because we're making tea.
Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. It's really funny. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So you did the showcase, at the class. And then what was your first sort of like, holy shit, this is like a legit show opening for whoever? Do you remember what that, I'm assuming you remember.
Where I started feeling like a real stand-up comic.
Yeah, where like you almost felt like intimidated by like, wow, this is actually happening.
Well, I mean, probably when I went on tour with Tom Green, that was kind of, I started feeling like, oh, like I'm a real comedian, I guess. Because prior to that, I'd taken a little bit of time off because I started realizing like I don't really like my material. I started realizing the stuff that I had written or was working on was kind of more influenced by other people's voices than really my own. I also felt like it was kind of a bad depiction on like who I was, right? Like I'm up there, it's my voice, it's my face.
Right.
And I kind of was trying to figure out who I was up there like what message I'm sending. And I felt like the stuff I was talking about wasn't necessarily what I wanted the reflection of me to be. You know, like it was kind of like, now I feel way better about that because I feel like I'm saying stuff that's meaningful and important.
Right.
And at the time, what I was talking about was kind of like stuff that I thought was personal that others could relate to, or other girls. But I want to do something bigger than that. I don't want to talk necessarily about me and my life. Like, I want to talk about social issues and the impact and like what we're doing in this world. Like, why are we slut shaming people? Like, these are the things I talk about now, right? Like, I feel like I have like a way more interesting point of view. It's not just me telling you a story about my life. I'm telling you how I feel about bigger issues and how my life events fit into that.
Right.
Which is really what I want to be doing. I don't want to be this person that's up there like, oh, this story, this thing happened today.
Right.
Who cares? Like, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean?
Right.
What did you learn from that? And that was the element that I was missing in my early stand-up.
Okay. But I mean, I'm assuming, I mean, obviously it took time for you to learn that because you, growing up, you don't learn yourself until much later on. I mean, I remember being, you know, in my early 20s and again, not knowing what the fuck was going on half the time. And thinking about how I thought then, I can't even like come up with a coherent thought of like, how did anything I was thinking about or thought was important made any sense? Mm-hmm. So I think that gradually happens over time. And it's interesting that you went, you know, to go to school for journalism, and then that's kind of like made its way back around into, you know, like you said, what you're doing now. So you're sort of reporting, but in a way that makes you think through, you know, telling something in the form of a joke, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's certain things that like directly correlate from journalism to joke writing. You know, like in journalism, you're supposed to really focus on brevity, you know, like getting to the point.
Right.
And that's true in comedian life as well, you know, like getting to the point, being concise with what you're saying, at least in my point of view. And then also I feel like it's important to have like, I feel like gravitas is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like to have some sort of like trustworthiness as a journalist. I feel like the same is true with comedians. You know, like you want to believe that person, you know, even if you disagree with them or their point of view, you want to believe that what they're telling you is like really how they feel about it. You know, it's genuine. Right. Like no one wants to see a fake ass comedian up there telling you what you want to hear. Right. They want to hear what you're trying to say, you know, like what is it that you're trying to share with the world? Like, what is your point of view? Like no one wants to see someone that's pandering to an audience. Right. So I think that's also really important. It's just like having that element of, yeah, you can trust me. Even if you don't agree with me, you can trust what I'm saying is actually what I think.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I was just thinking about two different even times in the last like 20 years. I think about, you know, Seinfeld and how much that show had done for comedy. And, you know, he's sort of a very observational of things, and the way that he observes things is hilarious, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, now with the kind of climate we have going on in this country, and I just watched Hassan Minaj's Homecoming on Netflix, and that was amazing because he talks about growing up Muslim in America, and how when like, you know, September 11th happened, how people started like, you know, like somebody broke his windows on his dad's car, and he was here his entire life, and to him he's like, why are you guys acting like this? This is where I was born. This is my home, you know? And it's that's kind of like what you're talking about, is sort of having that truth and I mean, yeah, there were parts of it that were funny, but what I really appreciated about it was that it was, you know, he took you on this ride of like giving you this information that's funny growing up, like, oh, I'm a Muslim kid and this is, you know, this is weird to me and this is what it's like, and you're laughing through, you know, through him, because you're like, oh wow, that's really awkward to have to feel like that. And then you kind of get to this point of like, you know, I was almost like starting to tear up because he kind of, it's still comedy and he still brings it back, but it has such like weight to it.
Yeah.
That's really important.
That's something that I've like recently kind of gotten to the point of, I guess, like accepting and both striving for, is that it's going to sound weird, but as a comedian, like I don't feel like my responsibility is necessarily to make you laugh. Like, obviously I would love to, that's what I aim for when I'm writing, but really I want to make someone feel something, and I want to bring levity to what comedy is. Like I want to provide an experience that is fun for people, but I also want to provide meaning, like it's kind of, I love jokes, I love writing, and I love punchlines, but I want people to remember what I'm saying, like that girl, oh yeah, that girl says some things that are really like true. Like, yeah, like when she was talking about feminism, I agreed with her. You know what I mean? Like that's more important to me than like a haha joke.
I think that's important because if you can get somebody to feel something, right, and you take them on this ride, even if it comes to a point of like you're telling a piece about, like you said, slut shaming or something like that, mm-hmm. and then you have women who identify with that, and they feel like, oh wow, like there's little parts of that are almost like funny to them in a way of like wow, that's terrible, I went through that, like it's so, it's nice that you're communicating this. And then through that ride, I'm sure you've hooked some of the men in the audience too, and once you have made them feel something, then maybe they can have some sort of empathy to what you're speaking about as far as something like slut shaming, right? Because then they start to think, they're like, oh, I trust you because you've made me feel something at some point. Mm-hmm. And then now, I'm willing to take this journey with you through what you're saying and not just immediately shut off.
Right. And that's something that I've like been thinking about and learning recently, was when I was on tour, with someone else. There were people that were involved, like my manager at the time or whatever was like involved in my material and what I should be talking about, like how are you going to get a show? How are you going to get a sitcom? And I remember having conversations with my manager at the time about, Erin, you should do material that's like, I hate sluts. You should be like anti-sluts because women don't like sluts. And so that's how you're going to get women on board with you. And I remember telling him, like, no, because literally in my notebook and the material I'm trying to develop and write, like, I don't think slut should be a word. Like, I don't think we should be judging people for it's their choice. Who gives a fuck? Like, let them live their life. I don't think we should be judging women by that. And they're like, no, but if you're talking about this, like, girls are going to like that because no one likes a slut. Now I literally get up on stage and I say, everyone likes sluts. Guys like sluts. Girls like sluts. Let's not, like, slut shame anyone, really.
Right.
And I have jokes, like I have material from that perspective, and I get like applause breaks, people identify with that. Like that's
right.
real. Like
right.
I'm a girl. I don't want to get up there and talk about like other girls. You do this, but I'm right and you're wrong.
Right.
Like, I don't care. We've all made mistakes.
We all continue to make mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
That's
we're all evolving.
Experience.
And I don't believe that I think slut should not be a word. I really think that. Like, let's get rid of that from the dictionary. Delete it. I don't give a fuck. Like, no one should be labeled a slut. We all make choices.
I don't disagree with you.
And so I'm so anti that. But I remember, like, people being like, yeah, you should, like, to make girls like you.
Well, this town. You know
gotta,
how they...
like, play this game and be this person. And I remember just thinking... And I remember trying to work on that material and like looking at what I'd kind of developed and notes I had about that idea that were my voice, and like trying to think about like what people were telling me to write, like what should be my voice. And I remember thinking like, there's no way, like I'm not going to take that stance. Like, how do I make this work? And there was no way. And now the stuff I'm doing is so funny because like people told me not to talk about this. People told me not to take that stance. People told me to, be the person that's like judgmental of other people's behaviors because that's what people will identify with. That's how you're going to get girls on your side. Cause like girls over there with your boyfriend, like they don't want like a slut there. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not
logic.
It's not what I believe in.
Right.
Yeah. And now the shit that I was afraid to say or that people told me not to say is the stuff that's working the most for me on stage.
Right.
And that's a huge win for me, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, you would agree that comedy is truth. And so, yeah, when you're being yourself and you're being honest about things, people can identify that the most. You know, you can't, the whole idea of you know, in the 50s they didn't have toilet paper or tampon commercials on TV, and that's just the reality of humanity. Humanity finds the things that they have to deal with and identify with every day as something that moves them. And if you can point that out like you could with your retainer, then then it's funny, because it's like, hey, this is just the truth. We all have to go through this, right? So that's
yeah, and it's funny because like also my mom, like I love my mom, she's amazing, but she was like, I can't listen to your podcast. And you know, my podcast is V-carded. Like I talk about how people lost their virginity. Yeah. And I was like, why not? And she's like, well, because you talk too much about like your sex life. And I don't really, like, I interview my guests. My guest does. They tell their story. I relate to it in certain ways that I can, but I really don't that much. But I guess she might have heard something that she didn't want to know or hear about, which I thought was so funny. Like, this is my mom. Like, she's a different generation, Mexican Catholic, conservative mom. And she can't handle my podcast where I barely talk about anything I do.
Right. But it's just guilty by association. It's like, oh, you're hanging around these people. Yeah,
but I just think maybe it's a different time. Like, it was a different time, back then and now. And now I don't consider what I do to be that extreme. Like, I feel like V-carded is actually the perfect, like, apex of my comedic abilities and my journalism experience, Like, I talk to people, I interview them, I can handle it with professionalism and sensitivity, but at the same time, like, if something's funny, like, we're gonna have fun with it. Yeah. And my mom can't handle it. She's like, no. The time you're like, yeah, like, I've experienced stuff like that, it's like too much for her. Yeah. Maybe just because I'm her daughter, though. I would assume so. Yeah, maybe it's different.
Probably.
She doesn't want to know.
No, I don't think so. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine.
Mom, I'm sorry. I love you.
As long as you love her, it's all that matters.
I do, yeah. I just wanted to be able to hear my podcast. It's good, Yeah.
Really I'm sure she knows that. I'm sure she knows it's great.
I hope so. She just told me she can't listen to it anymore, and that's all I gleaned from the conversation.
Or maybe she told you that and she's secretly listening to it.
I hope she is. I think
she's
just
good. Sitting in her car all like...
It's a really good show.
Listening to it.
It really is.
I'm sure, yeah. I've listened to it.
Yeah? What episode did you listen to?
I started listening to... the very first episode
with Camilla Cleese?
Yeah, with Camilla. Yeah. And it was I was listening to it on a car ride. I had a long car ride like a couple months ago, and it's funny. Yeah, I liked Camilla's really interesting. She's my writing partner and like one of my best friends in stand up, but the funny thing about Camilla is that, like, she is now like a very different person than she was when she lost her virginity, right? Like, aren't we all? Yeah, like, but she was like a party girl, and now she's like sober. So it was kind of like a different lifetime. Mm-hmm. So I think her story is really interesting because it's almost like looking back and thinking like, yeah, I was a different person, you're a different person, right? But like, she has like made some big changes in her life and big decisions, which is awesome and great. But looking back at that like former person, you're like, who was that? Like, what? I know. I love her episode. She's great and very, very honest. I love that. It's weird. Yeah. Like you said, thinking back, like life, it's, you're almost living like, multiple lifetimes in one lifetime. And I think about all the stuff that I've done. Like, I used to be in bands and tour with bands and do all that. And that's just like, I can't even imagine or remember most of the things that happened at that time. And it's been a long ride. Yeah. So I definitely feel that. Totally. I feel like my worries and concerns were very, very different when I was like early 20s Erin versus now, Oh, yeah. I was just like, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I had this boyfriend that worked at CAA, and he was just like an assistant. But they have that whole little community, like all the assistants know each other.
and they like develop these bonds because their jobs suck and they get paid nothing and they work so hard, right?
Right.
And I remember being so intimidated by that community. Like they were doing that and I was, you know, trying to be a host or personality or journalist or whatever, you know, and at that time it was really, really difficult for me to figure out how I was going to do this my way. And, you know, anytime you want to be on camera, you're doing it for free when you first start out. You're not getting paid for that shit.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like all these stresses of like, how am I going to make this work? Like I felt so far away from my dreams. And it was so weird because I felt like these people that had a path or an idea of what they wanted to be doing, whether it was like, oh, I want to be an executive, I want to be an agent, whatever. Like that in itself was intimidating to me. I was like, oh my God, like I can't handle this. These people like know what they're doing and I don't know. But I would never admit that,
Sure.
you know, but those were the things that like scared me
Oh,
about people that had like a path of what they wanted to do. I was still figuring mine out and didn't know if it would work or not. I was like, oh yeah.
That's the weird thing about creativity and any aspect about doing it. I mean, because the reality is you have to support yourself some way. You need to have a place to live and feed yourself and etc. And it's so, I mean, I grew up on the south side of Chicago and my entire family, no one, you know, is really that creative. They're creative in their own ways, but they're not like, I'm the one that left the state. No one's ever lived anywhere else. And I'm the one that is the creative person. I tried doing other things like working in the financial sector and everything like that. And I just couldn't do it. And I look back at like, I don't know what necessarily would make me happier. Like I just realized that I'm a creative person and this is what I need to do. And I sometimes envy those people though that are like, oh, I'm going to be an engineer, so I'm going to get good grades in math, and then I'm going to go to college for engineering, and then I'm going to get hired by an engineering firm because I have this piece of paper and had good grades in math, and then that's it. And then I'm going to work my way up through this, and this. And that's kind of like the CAA thing. You come out and you're working on someone's desk, and then you get promoted, and then you're an agent, and
you're
it's like
then
you start your own agency,
and then you like know people and you meet people and whatever. I'm like, wow,
you're like,
that is scary.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It might work out. It might work out for them.
Like, exactly. Yeah, right.
I was so intimidated by like that kind of stuff, which is so dumb because we're all on our own path.
That's the one thing.
But I was so insecure. I had no idea. Like I didn't know how I was going to get to where I was at and where I wanted to be, you know?
And in this town and in the creative world, you can't ever know some things. And I still struggle with that. Like, how do you get to this next step or this next place? And
totally.
Sometimes people do, you know, they're like with actors, they're doing like the, you know, I'm going to go to all these classes and I'm going to do all these showcases and I'm going to study. And then they're going to do these, you know, they're going to get this agent and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then there's other people that are like, oh, I'm serving at Koi and so sees me. Hey, you're an actor. And boom, like that's it. There's literally no way to do it. So you can't compare yourself to anybody else's path. It just doesn't work. It just creates a lot of anxiety.
Yep. Totally.
So your stand-up now, a lot more insightful than it ever has been.
Well, I feel like a lot more true to myself, you know? Like I consider myself to be like, I know it's going to sound dumb, but kind of a freedom fighter.
What do you mean? In what way?
Well, like I really do believe, you know, of course, with any like comedic content, there's a perspective, there's a judgment, right?
Sure.
But like as a girl, as a minority, like I am like fighting for those people, you know, like I'm fighting for the people that like never thought they could win.
Right.
And I feel like I'm bringing that to the table more than I ever was before. Like, I'm not against women. I'm not against sluts. I'm not against, like, anyone trying to do what they want to do. Like, you know, against the advisement of people that were kind of, like, guiding my career at the time, right? So, like, now I'm very, like, that's never been me. Like, I'm super for all of those things, you know? And I feel like that's what I want to bring to the content that I'm creating and that the things I'm talking about, you know. I just want to be, the only thing I really like hate on are guys that don't get it. Like dudes that don't get it. It's like the only thing I make fun of now.
Don't get what specifically, or just what you're trying to do.
Guys that I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of encounters with guys that are just very, the only way I can really describe it are like they're not enlightened, you know? Like
Okay.
their approach in trying to talk to me, or like people that I see, I don't know, like what they think works. I feel bad for guys in a lot of ways.
Okay.
I feel like dudes have been misinformed. You know, girls like this, or this is how you talk to
Yeah.
a girl, or
Well,
you
that's
say
a-
something negative to her and make her feel bad about herself, and then she'll like go out
Oh, the
with
pickup
you.
artist?
Yeah,
Negging?
yeah, sure. Like
Yeah.
any stuff like that. Like,
Isn't that what Trump did to the entire country?
Or like I had a friend. Okay, she'd be so mad at me if I was telling this story, but like
That's fine.
I'm gonna tell anyway briefly. So I have a friend, and she was like seeing this guy. They had a real connection, and then they haven't talked in a couple of weeks, you know, whatever. And she was kind of upset about it.
Did he ghost her? Is that what's happening?
No, he didn't ghost her, but he kind of just like
Slow fade out?
I wouldn't even say that. Like I would say that they're like still like connected in some weird way, but
Okay.
he's just kind of like he's not as a communicative person as she is, right?
Got it.
And it's so new in the relationship where they haven't like been able to like have these conversations and being like, okay, so this is what I need, this is what you need. Like it's very, very new in them seeing
Okay.
each other.
Sure.
So they're kind of like not putting pressure or
Yeah,
expectations on anything. Yeah, right. So like weeks will go by where they don't talk, and she told me that he sent her a text message after weeks of them not talking, and it was like, oh, I've been thinking about you, and it was like a screen cap of like some porn he was watching, and it was like, what do you mean? Like that's how he contacts you now? Like you haven't talked in weeks, and now he's sending you a screenshot of porn he's watching thinking of you? Like that's like you do that when you're real comfortable with someone.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're really comfortable with someone and you guys trust each other, you've been hooking up, whatever, you talk like often, like maybe you've established like that level of being comfortable with each other. But like you haven't talked to someone in 4 weeks.
That's
and
a
you're
little
sending
weird.
them a screenshot of porn you're watching, being like, thinking of you. That is weird.
That's a little weird.
And I feel like guys, like, I don't want to say it's his fault. Like, I kind of don't think it is. Like, I think it's just like guys have this idea of like what they should do, or like who they should be, or the message they should be sending. Like, I remember I was talking to this guy about a year ago, and he, I don't know, he like didn't want to feel responsible for my feelings. I think he was like trying to intentionally keep distance between us, even though we both like felt
Yeah.
something there. And he would tell me like, yeah, there's sometimes I don't want to text you because I want to get that close or whatever, or move that fast. But like, I'll just like look at your Instagram. I'll just like look at your pictures and be like, oh, she's so pretty. And I was like, that's so weird. You know, you could just like, you could talk to me like it's fine. You know, like it's not
I'm actually here in real life. Like you can
like,
see
isn't
me.
that weird?
Yeah, I mean,
Like that's how, like, instead of reaching out,
Right.
but he wants to create distance, he would look at my pictures and then told me that. That's weird.
yeah, telling you that's like the
That's
weird. It's like the
weird.
weird part of it. Like
So
whatever he has
weird.
going on himself, and if he does that, like that's one thing. But then to
Right?
bring it to your attention, like, hey, I look at your pictures, but not text
Yeah,
you.
but I don't want to text you because I don't want you to think that like
I think he was just
I
thinking he was
like you
being
that
sweet.
much.
So,
But I like you enough to like look at your pictures when I'm thinking of you. That's so weird.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird things that guys do that I have 2 sisters and I a lot of female friends, and hear about a lot of things that guys like. The unsolicited dick pic is a huge thing, which
my
I don't
God.
understand because I'm like, hey, at least go out to dinner with me first. Like, I'm not just gonna say
At first, okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that is sexual harassment. I think the unsolicited dick pic is sexual harassment. It's the same thing as being a flasher. Really, it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
I didn't fucking ask for it. You're just
I don't
gonna
disagree with
send
that.
it to me. I've had people do that on Instagram where it's like you have to like accept their message or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, blah blah." Like, I'm a fan of what
Here's
you
my
do,
dick.
and I'll respond, right? Because then you like unblock them, or
Yeah.
whatever. Someone I don't know, and I'll be
Right.
like, "Thank you so much," and they'll send me a fucking image of their dick or something, and I'm like, "Really?
it's
Why? Like that is harassment. Don't send me a picture of your dick. You don't even know me. You've never even met me."
That's kind of like the whole idea of yelling at a woman on the street too. Like, when has that ever worked? Like, when has
I
it ever
don't
happened where it's
know.
been like, here's my dick. Oh, can we fuck?
I don't
That's
know.
never happened.
I read this
ever.
article about someone that was doing that. A girl that was doing it like from the opposite way, where she would like talk to someone on Tinder, like say like hi and send a vagina pic, and like the response is totally different. Like guys are like, oh yeah, baby.
I don't know. That right away, I'd be like,
it's different. Like guys are like, yes, they're
Yeah.
like, they don't consider it the same thing. Like it's not harassment to them, but like for girls, we're kind of like, wait, what? What's going on? For most females, like we just get an unsolicited dick pic. It's weird. It's kind of like, wait, what?
yeah.
What is happening right now?
If someone sent me a vagina like that, I wouldn't necessarily be offended, but I'd immediately be like, no, like that's cool.
Like what's happening?
Yeah, like this is just weird, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Totally.
So what have you had any other like incredibly weird encounters? Because I'm assuming like you get all kinds of weird random messages.
I mean, not really. Like, I feel like that's definitely the weirdest. People that have just sent me random dick pics or something. But, no, not really. There was one person that was interacting with me a lot that kind of had this idea that we were in a relationship, someone I'd never met before. And
Wow.
it was like a lot of attention, I guess. It was kind of strange. But I don't know. That's probably like the other weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
Guys, you don't want to do that. Just FYI. Any of the
don't.
things we're talking about, just don't do it. I don't know where that even comes from, like where that behavior.
I mean, honestly, I feel bad talking about it because I feel like it's like a mental health issue.
It could be, but it's pretty prevalent from what I understand.
What, dick pics or
Yeah.
thinking that you're okay? Well,
No,
no,
dick
that's
pics.
that's
Yeah.
different. That's just
Yeah.
like different. But I feel like the person that was
Yeah,
couldn't-
that's
like, that
definitely like
thought
a
we were in-
disassociative, like
yeah, someone that thought that we were like in a relationship or felt like betrayed by me or whatever. It was kind of like that I'd never met.
right.
You know, that was kind of weird. But other than that, things are good.
Other than that. So what's next for you then?
What's next?
What's next?
Well, you know, I just wrote some projects, trying to see what's happening with that. I'm on a Stanley animated series called The Reflection, which is dope.
What do you play on that?
Like a lot of random voices.
Okay.
I'm like this mutant, like a teenager, bitchy mutant that lives in the sewer, and she's mad at the world. And I do other voices for that, which is really fun. And yeah, and then my podcast, V-Carded.
V-Carded. And when and where can you hear that?
You guys can go to vcarded.com or subscribe on iTunes. We're there too. So that's awesome. And other than that, just like whatever comes my way, taking it.
What's like the pinnacle for you now? But what's your like, you know, everybody has that kind of like long-term, like, okay, if this happened, it'd be fucking awesome. What's that kind of goal for you?
I have a lot of things I want to do and accomplish, I think, along the way. But I really want to like learn TV, like in and out. Like I want to sell a show. I want to like be there and see how it's made and learn about that process. Like that's something I'm really working on this year, is trying to figure out how to create TV. That's my biggest goal for the time being.
So are you doing it more so as in a writer aspect, or are you doing it, do you want to do like the production and like directing maybe? Or do you want to, is it something that
It's
you're
so
trying
funny. People keep asking me that if I want to direct stuff. And I'm like, I don't.
It's a natural progression typically for like an actor or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
like you can't be in everything that you write.
Right.
You know, and I've thought about that too. I'm working on I'm doing a table series for a web series, comedy web series I wrote tomorrow. But you know, there's a couple other projects that I'm writing that I'm like, I'm not right for this, and I would love to direct something. I'd love to produce something. So I think it's just a natural progression.
Yeah.
So is there, I mean, are you looking at TV in the aspect of like, hey, I would just like to write and then maybe direct this and not so much like play a part in it?
I mean, I wouldn't count anything out. Like I'm interested in learning like how it's all done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's all definitely a possibility.
Okay. And do you have anything aside from, you know, you said you've been writing some things. Are there anything that you're gonna shoot yourself that we can look forward to? Is there anything in the works that's just gonna be happening?
Yeah, there is, but I don't
Okay.
know if I can talk about it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some stuff on the horizon that might be coming out this holiday season.
Ooh, holiday
It'd be
season.
really funny. Yep.
Wow.
Maybe on like College Humor or something like that.
Oh,
But we'll
okay. We'll have to keep a lookout for that.
see. Yep.
All right. Well, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm talked out.
You're talked out.
Yep.
Yeah, we've made it. We made it a good hour here,
We
so
did
it's
it.
pretty solid. We've passed the finish line. All right. Well, Erin, thank you for joining me for my
you.
second episode,
Yay.
and thank you to everybody out there for tuning in. And I will hopefully see you again, not in another 7 months, but I just have a lot of things happening, so it's hard to pull this together. But thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Bye, guys. We'll see you again.
Bye.